Listen, I don't want any more bullshit.
Yeah, what's up? What's up, fellow Colts fans who, like myself, are allergic to bullshit, coach speak, generic, Pollyanna commentary, and any other kind of smoke being blown up one's ass, which is what is trafficked in by most of the so-called coverage of the Indianapolis Colts. I want to welcome you back to the one and only official, world-famous, bullshit-free Colts podcast, where, as always, you're going to hear what's up with the Colts, 100% straight, no chaser, with no coach speak, no PR spin, and of course, as always, most importantly, no bullshit. Now, this has been a bye week, so since there's no game to talk about, I decided to dive into and hopefully definitively put to fucking bed what I think is a ridiculous argument that has been being made and championed mainly by one person I know of in this market, and that is the Ryan Grigson versus Ballard debate. Which one is better? Which one has done the best job so far? And look, one would think that this wouldn't even be a question, right? But there is a guy in this market who for years has been pushing this narrative that Ryan Grigson, yes, that Ryan Grigson, that gorgeous hunk of male percotrude and football genius, did a much better job than Chris Ballard has done thus far. And that narrative has been put forth by the one, by the only, another hunk of gorgeous, handsome male percotrude, Mr. Dan Dakich. You know, almost since the day Chris Ballard got here, Dan Dakich on his noon radio show has been putting forth this narrative that Ryan Grigson, and to me, this is like the ultimate revisionist narrative. But Dan has been saying that Ryan Grigson, it wasn't his fault. He shouldn't have been fired. And as a matter of fact, Ryan Grigson did a great job. As a general manager of the Colts. And over the years, Dan has consistently said that Ryan has done a better job than Chris Ballard has done. Now, look, let me give Dan a little credit. First off, let me just say this. I actually like Dan. He and I have gone back and forth on Twitter and gotten at each other pretty brutally over the years. A lot of times I disagree with Dan. Some stuff I do agree with Dan on, though, and I agree. And I enjoy his show. He's an entertaining guy in terms of pure entertainment value. Whatever you think about his opinions, etc. And, you know, yes, you and I both know, let's be honest, I mean, Dan is kind of shock jockey. That's his shtick. That's his niche, right? He says shit for shock value a lot of times in order to get attention. He's like Howard Stern light. He's the Howard Stern of Indiana, or wants to be anyway. So, again, you know, you should take a lot of the shit that Dan says with a grain of salt, because he says stuff to get attention, to get a reaction. And I mean, that's good radio, right? So we have to take what he says with a grain of salt sometimes. And he does talk completely out of his ass sometimes. But that being said, I have to give him credit on some things. He is willing to look at an alternative point of view. He is tougher on sports teams and points out some things that are just blatantly true that a lot of people in the Indianapolis market don't seem to have the balls to do. I think he's a great interviewer most of the time, because I think he reminds me of Charlemagne the God a lot. He's like willing to ask the questions that people really want to hear. He'll ask a player or a coach or whatever to their face questions that might be uncomfortable for them. I mean, I got to give Dan credit on that. So again, I'm not saying he's always wrong. I'm not saying he couldn't be right. Sometimes Dan gets at the kernel of truth that a lot of other people are unwilling to say or deal with. Okay, so I'll give him that. But in this case, I really don't. I think this is just Dan trying to have a super duper white hot take, and then when he gets a constant violent reaction to it, as you know, most people would in this market who try to tell you that Ryan Grigson was not just a good GM, but a great GM. Well, then he doubles down on that in order to continue to get that attention, because it's good for, you know, to keep people mad and calling him back and getting attention or whatever, okay? But for a guy who, though he doesn't seem like it sometimes, he's a pretty intelligent guy, his reasoning is ridiculous to me. I mean, it's hard for me to believe that he really believes it. Not only that Ryan Grigson was a great GM, but that he's a better GM than Chris Ballard so far. But let Dan actually tell you himself why he says that. So he won't be able to accuse me of putting words in his mouth. This is Dan giving his reason for it.
The idea of coaching, playing, general manager is one thing and one thing only, and that is to win. That is it. I mean, you can say whatever you'd like about draft choices. And even Ballard, I asked him this question. Ballard's like, Dan, we draft these guys. It's a crapshoot. And we take, I said, why do so many undrafted free agents come to and play for the Colts? He said, because we put them all in a group and we just pick the best players. And that's what you do. And I think Ballard, look, I think Ballard's going to be terrific. But there is a reason, and Chappie and I talked about it, there is a reason, Luke, that with a more talented roster by all accounts, Grigson's teams just won a little more, even though they had duress. That's all. That's my opinion. You're welcome to your opinion. Yeah. That's my opinion, and it's based as a coach, and it's based on record. It's based on record.
Okay. So what Dan Dakich is postulating here, in his infinite wisdom, is that the way you judge a general manager of an NFL team, a general manager whose job it is to pick the players, pick the coaches in some cases, etc., right? But mainly to oversee the draft, trades, free agency, getting the players. Dan is saying that the way you judge an NFL GM is, when it all said and done, you judge them based on the team's win-loss record, whether the team wins. Okay, now, Dan, you're a funny guy. You're entertaining. I enjoy listening to your show sometimes. But, dude, in all due respect, and I know you've been a coach, so you have some inside knowledge on some things like this. But, dude, with all due respect, that is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. I mean, it's just inane. This is why your conclusion cannot be really taken seriously, because the whole premise that it's based on is faulty. The job of an NFL general manager, first and foremost, is to field a team full of players that is capable of winning. Okay? To field a team, to give the coaches the raw material, so to speak, in terms of players that have the ability and potential to win. Okay? Then it's up to the coaches and what have you to coach that team and the players to perform so that they win. But to judge a GM based on a win-loss record is fucking ridiculous, because it doesn't take into account all kinds of shit that's out of the GM's control. I mean, you can hold a GM responsible for players that don't turn out, right? But that doesn't take into consideration injuries. It doesn't take into consideration bad coaching. It doesn't take into consideration bad luck. Doesn't take into consideration your fucking franchise once-in-a-generation quarterback just fucking up and quitting after 6 years in the middle of the fucking 4th preseason game in the year that you've put together the best team around him you've ever had. Okay? To hold a general manager responsible for shit like that is ridiculous. You can say, hey, this general manager consistently put together teams that win. That's one thing I look at, but you have to dig down and say, what players did this general manager provide when it's all said and done? And of the factors that could be controlled. How did those players turn out? How did they perform? That's how you fucking judge a general manager. So, in light of that fact, and since this is a bye week and it's the perfect time to do this, I have decided to break down definitively between the two, Ryan Grigson and Chris Ballard, which one has performed better thus far, and hopefully shut Dan Dakich's ass the fuck up on this once and for all. Although, knowing Dan, I would not bet more than $1 on that happening. So let's fucking settle this once and for all as to which one has done a better job between Ryan Grigson and Chris Ballard. And why do this? Because you might be saying, come on, man, it's obvious. Well, look, like I said, Dan sometimes is right on this shit. So instead of just saying, dude, this is obvious, it's clear, let's actually look at the shit. Let's break it down factually and look at the picks. Look at the free agents. Look at the trades. Look at the personnel that these two guys have put together during their respective seasons. And look, real talk, this is not going to be some generic Pollyanna, coach speak, scared to hurt anybody's feelings analysis, okay? This is going to be brutal, and it's going to be honest, and it's going to be straight up. This, my friends, is why you take your valuable time to listen to the Bullshit Free Colts podcast, because you ain't going to get it like this anywhere else, I guarantee you. And so I appreciate you being here, by the way. Take the time right now to go ahead and smash the like button. Make sure you share this video and go ahead and subscribe to the channel now. And let's dive into this shit the rough and rugged way, all right? So first, let me break down how I evaluated these two guys, because, again, what the general manager position for an NFL team is about is bringing in the players that can win, bringing in the players that build a team that is capable of winning so that the coach can take that team and win with it. So here are the criteria that I came up with so that we could judge both men fairly and on the same terms, since Ryan Grigson actually had 5 full seasons, and right now Chris Ballard is only through 3.5. So let's look at the criteria that I came up with so that we can make this fair, unbiased, balanced, and based on data. What I did is to break this down into a few categories. You got draft picks, trades, free agents, okay? And so what I did is to go through and assign a point system to each player, pick, trade, free agent acquisition, waiver wire acquisition, etc. That way I can add up all the points of all the players that were acquired under each GM, and then divide that number, that raw score number, by the number of seasons. That way we can create a score that we can then compare between the two guys. All right. So very quickly, let me go over the point system I came up with. All right. So for a draft pick, I'm giving 1 point for every player that makes the team, every round 1, 2, or 3 pick that makes the team. 2 points for a player picked in rounds 4 through 7 that makes the team. An undrafted free agent that makes the team, I'm giving 3 points. Now, if they don't make the team after they're drafted, a first or second round pick is a negative 3 points that I'm deducting. If a third or fourth rounder doesn't make the team, or if they're traded away or they're cut, rounds 3 or 4, I'm taking away 2 points. Now, past that, player picked in 5, 6, 7, I'm not deducting any points because, frankly, a player picked between 5, 6, or 7, or an undrafted free agent, most of the time there's a good chance they won't make the team. Now, if the draft pick becomes a starter, round 1, 2, or 3, I'm giving another point. If a player picked in round 4 or 5 becomes a starter, then I'm giving them 2 points. Round 6 or 7, I'm giving 3 points. If an undrafted free agent becomes a starter, that's a huge hit. Okay, I give them 4 points for that player. Now, If the player makes a Pro Bowl, a round 1 or 2 player, I give them 2 points for every year they made the Pro Bowl. 3 through 7, 4 points for every year they made the Pro Bowl. An undrafted free agent that makes the Pro Bowl gets 6 points for each year they make the Pro Bowl. If they're selected all pro, 5 points per year added for any player. If they're rookie of the year, defensive or offense, then that's 7 points added to the player. Okay, now let's look at trades and free agents. If a trade is made and that player that's traded for is a starter, becomes a starter, you would get 2 points. If that player then goes to a Pro Bowl, that's an additional 2 points for every year they go to the Pro Bowl. If you trade for a player and then they cut that player, 2 points is deducted. All right? Now, if you traded a first or second round pick for the player, and that player does not become a starter, that's 3 points deducted because that's a huge miss. You give up a first or second rounder to trade for a player and they don't become a starter, that's a fucking problem. And if you give up a first or second round pick for a player and then you cut that player, they're kicked off your team, that is an additional negative 5 points, 5 points lost. That is a huge, huge gaffe, right, for a general manager. That's a big fucking miss and a costly one. Free agents, if you sign a free agent and that free agent is a starter on your team, you're given 1 point. You get an additional 2 points, or I should say you actually get 2 points additional if you got that player from a waiver claim. So you basically picked them up off the waiver wire and they become a starter. Additional 2 points. If that player you sign as a free agent goes to the Pro Bowl, that's 3 points for each year. If that free agent is all pro, that's 4 points for each year. If you sign a free agent and then cut them off the team, that's 2 points that is deducted. Okay? What this does allow us to do is to compare what each man has done under his regime as a general manager with player acquisition, trading, free agents, cutting, etc. It allows us to strip away the emotion, how we might feel. Some of y'all, can't help calling Ryan Grigson Big Sweaty, and if you call him that, we know you hate the motherfucker. And so you're not going to be able to be unbiased. And quite frankly, I didn't trust myself either. So that's why I came up with this system. It's a simple system, but one that's easy to understand as well. So let's see how they actually grade it out, shall we? Let's get the fuck into it. Starting with, first up, you know him, you love him, the original I Invented Football guy, a.k.a. Big Sweaty, a.k.a. Fuck Pat McAfee, Mr. Suit bought straight off the rack at Value City, Ryan Grigson. Now, let's look at Ryan Grigson, the guy that Dan Dakich said was a great GM and better than Chris Ballard. Let's look at his actual record of the players that he brought in during his 5-season tenure. Now, we start with the first year, and I'm not going to go through every one of these with a lot of detail, but I'll hit on the major ones because some of them are, you already know the story. Let's start with his first season, which may have been his best season. Now, the first pick of that draft, the first pick overall, was Andrew Luck, and he got 10 points. It's one of the highest rated players during the Ryan Grigson era. Now, here's the thing. I kind of debated back and forth over whether I should even give Grigson credit for Andrew Luck because Grigson himself admitted when he came in that really this was Jim Irsay's pick, really more than anybody else. He said right away, look, I have nothing to do with how the Peyton Manning thing is going to play out. That's something that that decision Mr. Irsay is making. And, it's been fairly well known, I think, that really Andrew Luck was kind of, the way that Jim Irsay was like, we're picking Luck. And even if it wasn't, it's the number one pick in the first round. This was kind of a no-brainer. Now, there were some people, though, who thought, that the number 1 pick should have been our guy. Oh, he of the goofy ass Smurf socks or rainbow socks or whatever it was, Robert Griffin III. I never thought it was close, but you know, in the end, I decided to go ahead and give Grigson credit for this because, again, he was the GM. They could have picked Robert Griffin III, and that would have been disastrous, or at least more disastrous. But anyway, he went Andrew Luck, Kobe Fleener, number 2, Dwayne Allen. They both made the team and became starters for a while. Now, in the 3rd round, he moved up to pick T.Y. Hilton. This was, without a doubt, the best move that Ryan Grigson made in his entire tenure as a GM. This is the best pick. T.Y. Hilton, 4-time Pro Bowler, picked up in the 3rd round. Starter. I mean, you know, it goes without saying. You know T.Y. Huge talent. This is a great pick and the best pick Ryan Grigson ever made. He picked up Josh Chapman in the 5th round, Vic Ballard. Those guys both made the team, became starters, which is good. But, again, some of this depends on how good the team is, right? The talent that's on the team. But still, I give them credit because those are late-round picks that became starters. Levine Brazil made the team in the 6th round. Justin Anderson never made the team. Neither did Tim Fugger or Chandler Hardlish. So you got no points for them. Now, he picked up Griff Whalen as an undrafted free agent. Griff actually made the team. He started for a while, but that was basically due to injury. But I give him credit for that he did make the team. Decent pick. He brought in Corey Redding, one of his better free agent acquisitions, I believe, in the time that he was here. Corey was a good player, but more importantly, a great, great veteran leader for the team. Particularly since Andrew Luck never really had that quality of being a vocal leader of the team. But anyway, Winston Justice he traded for, didn't work out. Vontae Davis he traded a 2nd-round pick for, got 6 points. Vontae made the Pro Bowl once, was a starter. Vontae was a great transaction. Samson Tatelli, oh my God, we don't even have to talk about him. He was trash. DJ Johnson he traded for. Got -2 points there because I don't think he even made the team. Donnie Avery, Jarrell Freeman, those are guys. You know, Jarrell Freeman was a good pickup. He was a starter. Mike McGlynn became a starter. Matt Overton became a starter. Darius Butler, great free agent acquisition, became a starter and another veteran presence on the team. By the way, check out Darius Butler and another favorite of Colt of mine, Antoine Bethay's podcast. The Man to Man podcast is fantastic. Shout out to those 2 brothers. Now, let's move on to 2013, man. This is probably Grigson's worst year, without a doubt. He fucking completely strikes out with the wonderkind who was Bjorn Werner that he took in the 1st round, that he said, I think Werner played a linebacker in college, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to make him a pass rushing defensive end. Maybe not. You might want to get an athletic, fast dude if you're going to do that, but Werner washed out, isn't even in the league now. Hugh Thornton in the 3rd round was a complete waste. Terrible offensive lineman. Khalid Holmes, terrible, never panned out as a center. Montorie Hughes made the team, and he was a decent rotational player. In the 5th round. John Boyette, trash, never made the team. Kerwin Williams was just a guy. He bounced around the practice squad for a while. Justice Cunningham, again, tight end, never turned into anything. I believe it's a tight end. Now, here comes another one of the biggest hits of Grigson's career as a general manager. Jack Doyle. Picks up Jack Doyle as an unrestricted free agent from the waiver wire, I believe, after he was cut by Tennessee. Jack Doyle goes on to start, become a Pro Bowler. Get 13 points for Jack Doyle. That's his 2nd highest rated player. The absolute fucking unintentionally hilarious train wreck that was LaRon Landry, who he brought in as a free agent, paid a huge amount of money for. And this dude clearly flunked calculus and any kind of geometry in high school and college because he took the worst angles I've ever seen. Now, on the other hand, if you just wanted to see a grotesquely and again unintentionally hilarious, over pumped up, muscle bound dude, LaRon Landry looked like a cartoon. Other than that, he was worthless. And again, we come to, without a doubt, the worst move of Grigson's tenure and one of the worst moves probably in NFL history. He trades a first-round pick for the absolute bust that was Trent Richardson. And that's a -8 score on that. Trent came in. He started. They forced him to be the starter. But he lost that job because he was so bad. He lost that job to an undrafted free agent they got off the street and then ended up being cut from the team. Couldn't trade him. Cut. Now, I'm full disclosure here. I, along with a lot of other people at the time, thought it was a great move, an unbelievable move when he made the trade. Until I went and started looking at the fucking film from Trent Richardson. All I knew is, hey, he had 900 yards. He had like 900-yard games or some shit like that playing for Cleveland. Till I went back and looked at the film from Cleveland. I was like, oh, boy. Trent was terrible. And all I can say is this. Me, like a lot of other people, I thought it was a great move at the time, but I ain't fucking paid to know this shit. This dude and his team should have been able to look at this film and see what everybody else who would have looked at the film saw, and certainly what Cleveland saw only 1 year after drafting him number 3 overall, that this dude didn't have it. Now, he brought in Ahmad Bradshaw as a free agent who ended up taking Trent's position before he got hurt. So, and then Matt Hasselbeck was a good pickup at free agent. He made the team. Darius Hayward-Bay, free agent. He was trash. 0 points there. Joe Wrights as a free agent, one of his better acquisitions as well. Joe made the team and actually became a starter, I believe. Eric Walden, free agent, pretty good. Pickup Greg Toller, free agent, and Goster Cherilus. These are guys who both ended up being cut. They were terrible players, and he paid top money for both of them. Greg Toller is still somewhere being burnt, even if he's out of the league right now. This is a motherfucker who get burnt by ice. I mean, he's terrible. All right, let's go to 2014. Second-round pick Jack Muhort. Jack made the team and became a starter. Not great, but a solid starter, although he was injured all the time. Dante Moncrief. Dante made the team, became a starter. I could have, technically he probably should have lost a point on this, but they didn't cut Moncrief. They just didn't re-sign him. Now, later he went to 2-3 other teams and ended up getting let go. Now I think he's on the Jets practice squad as a receiver. The New York Jets practice squad. Dante Moncrief can't even get on the active roster at the New York Jets. That tells you everything you need to know about Dante, although he had a cool last name. Jonathan Newsom made the team. Decent, hurt a lot. Andrew Jackson made the team. For a 6th-rounder, that's not bad. Ulrich John was a complete waste. Jonathan Harrison was an undrafted free agent that came in, made the team, and actually started for a while. Zach Kerr, same thing, ended up being a decent player. DeQuell Jackson, free agent. He did start, so he got a point there. Hakeem Nicks was trash, never could play. He was hurt all the time and was hurt when he drafted him. Mike Adams, another one of Grigson's best moves. He was a free agent that came in. He was on the scrap heap. Nobody wanted him. Grigson found him, brought him in. Mike became the starter, actually went to 2 Pro Bowls, and was a great, great teacher for other players in that secondary. Art Jones, -1. Art Jones was a complete waste, terrible signing as a free agent, ended up being cut. He was terrible. Never could play. He was hurt the whole fucking time he was here, and they gave him about $40 million or some shit. Now we move to 2015, nearing the beginning of the end. Philip Dorsett, I'm not even going to go into how many better players were on the board when he drafted Philip, but Philip did become a starter for a while, or he made the team, actually. He never really, I think he was a third receiver off the bench, but he never did anything, ended up being traded. DeJohn Smith, third-round pick. Dude was hurt all the time, ended up being cut. Terrible. Henry Anderson actually ended up being a pretty good pick. He made the team, ended up becoming a starter before he was traded. Clayton Geathers was a good pick in the 4th round, made the team, became a starter. David Perry, 5th rounder, made the team, actually started for a while. Then you got Josh Robinson and Amarlo Herrera, who I don't think they even made the team. Denzel Good actually made the team, started for a while, played decent, but could never stay healthy. A lot of players like that during the Grigson era just could never stay healthy. Ended up being released. Deron Carter, free agent experiment, that was a bust. You get a -2 there because he never even made the team, ended up being cut. Frank Gore was a good pickup in free agency. Todd Harriman's another free agency disaster. They brought him in to be the starting guard. The motherfucker, I think he started 2 games, and he was so bad after that, they just cut him. Andre Johnson, free agent, was supposed to be one of the final pieces. Remember, this was supposed to be the year they were going for it all. So you have all these terrible player picks in the year they were supposed to be going for it all. Andre Johnson was brought in to be a final piece. He was washed up and terrible, which is why the Texans let him go. He ended up, losing his starting position, I think. And they actually cut him after his first year. Trent Cole, complete waste. They paid him a bunch of money. He did nothing. Ended up hurt. Dwight Lowry, waste. Edwin Jackson was a good unrestricted free agent who ended up making the team, and I think even started a couple of games. C.O. Moore is a -2 because they traded, I think, a 6th-round pick for this guy and ended up just cutting him. And that brings us to the final season. 2016, Ryan Kelly was the first pick. This is Big Sweaty's last season. Ryan Kelly was a good, solid pick. Made the team, became a starter, had made his first Pro Bowl, I think, last year. T.J. Green, an epic disaster. Now, some people might say, well, that wasn't completely Ryan Grigson's fault, because word around the campfire is that T.J. Green was a pick that was absolutely demanded by Coach Chuck Pagano. They say Chuck Pagano pounded on the table wanting T.J. Green. And now get this. They moved up in the 2nd round to get T.J. Green, a player that most other teams thought was a 4th rounder, maybe a 3rd rounder at best. They moved up to get T.J. Green. The guy was fucking terrible. He never became a full-time starter except when somebody got injured. He was terrible. They ended up cutting him. So he gets a -2, and I should have given him a -3, to be honest, because for people who say, well, it wasn't really Grigson's fault, my take on that is, my response is, look, if you saw Chuck Pagano's defenses during his 4 years that you were here with him, you listened to that motherfucker tell you a player that he wanted? Come on. Come on, man. Then you in the 3rd round, you had LaRaven Clark. LaRaven made the team, but he's never been a starter. He didn't even see the field at all last year. So, I mean, he made the team, I'll give you that, but, I mean, he's just a step away from being a bust maybe. Hassan Ridgeway played well in spots as a 4th rounder, but never really became a starter full-time. Antonio Morrison became a starter, but ended up being traded. Hassan Ridgeway, I think, was traded as well. Joe Haig was a good pickup in the 5th round. Really solid player. Became a starter. They lost him in free agency last year, unfortunately. And then Trevor Bates was trash. They ended up cutting him. Austin Blythe, he played. Austin Blythe actually made the team, played sparingly. He was let go by Chris Ballard and now plays for the Rams, starts for the Rams, so go figure. Then you had Chester Rogers, who was an undrafted free agent. They picked up off the waiver wire, and he ended up making the team and playing. Rashawn Melvin, they actually signed as a free agent, and he played, became a starter for a while and played relatively well, but they didn't bring him back. So that, my friends, is the illustrious tenor of the man that Dan Dakich calls a great GM and a better GM than Chris Ballard. And maybe so. Maybe so. We're going to look at the scores here in a second. But before we look at the comparative scores, we got to take a look at the next man on the totem pole who became the GM after Ryan Grigson was fired. You know the man, Chris, Mr. Aw Shucks, a.k.a. Look It, a.k.a. the rivalry is back on. Everybody loves Chris Ballard. And again, I have to say, everybody does love Chris Ballard. I love the guy. I mean, he's an easy guy to like. Without a doubt, he's charismatic. He's funny. He's really good with people. He's great with the media. He's just a savvy guy. You know, he radiates humanity, warmth, and intelligence. He's an easy guy to like, right? But here's the problem with that. Something called liking-disliking bias. And here's the problem with the cognitive bias called liking-disliking bias. When we dislike somebody, we tend to discredit what they say, not believe what they say, to think that they're wrong. When we like somebody, we tend to forgive what they do. We tend to automatically feel that what they say is right. We tend to overemphasize the things that they do right and to paint a rosier picture of what they do and say than what is reality. So the fact that I like Chris, you like Chris, every fucking body likes Chris, we're going to set that aside. The fact that we think on the surface, most people think he's automatically a better GM than the guy we didn't like, Ryan Grigson, was. We're going to put that aside. We're going to look at the fucking data because that's what being bullshit free is about, all right? So let's jump into this, shall we? But before we actually do jump into Chris's actual picks, let me go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Some people might say, man, somehow, I mean, the rivalry's back on. That whole comment happened because of something that you can't even talk about Chris Ballard without talking about, and that's, you know, Chris being kind of embarrassed and left at the altar, so to speak, by the world's least desirable bride, Josh McDaniels, a.k.a. Vice President of Cheating, a.k.a. the luckiest offensive coordinator in history, a.k.a. Denver Broncos public enemy number one, or as he is affectionately called by those who know him best, bitch-ass n***. Now, you might feel like that should be a blemish that diminishes Ballard's grade somehow, but look, in the final analysis, you can't really blame Ballard for that. You can't blame Jim Irsay for that. You can't blame anybody in the organization for that. I mean, the man gave his word, said he was coming. He actually had the Colts hire in the assistants he wanted, and then he fucking welched. In the end reads, I mean, you can try to hold Ballard and other people responsible for that if you want, but in the final analysis, snake's gonna snake. You feel me? So let's get back to what we're talking about here and what really matters when it comes to Chris Ballard. Let's get down to the players that Chris Ballard has provided to the Colts team over the 3.5 seasons he's been here. So let's start off with his first draft in the year 2017. And now, I think this is his worst draft, actually, perhaps, since he's been here. I could be wrong. But, and again, I'm not trying to give him an out here or make excuses, but the one thing that's kind of messed up about this is that Chris came on so late in the game that he didn't have a chance to get all of his own preferred scouts and scouting staff in place. There was no way to do it. So he kind of had to use the work from the scouts and stuff who had been here working with the Colts already for the most part. And, you know, these are guys he didn't pick. So, you know, he did the best he could. And, again, I'm not giving him an out on that. The picks were still his, and it is what it is. So let's look at his first draft. Number one, he drafts Malik Hooker in 15. Now, Malik had fallen. Most people had Malik in the top 6, 7 picks of the draft. But he fell down because they took a bunch of quarterbacks, a run on quarterbacks early in that year. So everybody was happy to see Malik Hooker here. Malik's been solid. He made the team. He's been a starter. He's been solid. He's shown some flashes, but he hasn't blown anybody away the way it looked like he was going to be coming out of the draft, and he's been injured quite a bit. Looks like he's now lost his position possibly permanently to another one of Chris Ballard's draft picks and one of his better ones, it looks like, but we'll get to that later. In the second round, they took Quincy Wilson. I remember a lot of people kind of going, at this pick, and as it turned out, they were right. Quincy didn't turn out. He never really became he made the team, but he never really became a starter. He started a few games after a while, but couldn't keep the position and ended up being traded. So -1 there. Terrell Basham actually never broke through in the third round and ended up being traded. He's a -1. Zach Banner, I think they just cut this guy as a 4th-round pick. -2 there. But Marlon Mack, 4th rounder, good pick. Became a starter after making the team. And I believe was on his way to a Pro Bowl this year if he hadn't got hurt. But, you know, that's conjecture. We can't grade on that. Grover Stewart, another great pick at in the 4th round from this draft. Grover's made the team. He's now a starter, and he's actually wreaking havoc on the team. He's actually turned out to quietly, under the radar, be one of the better picks of Chris Ballard's tenure. Now, Nate Hairston made the team and actually became a starter for a while, but ended up being traded, so that knocked him down a bit. But the next pick, Anthony Walker Jr. in the 5th round, this guy is a great pick. He's been a starter since day one almost, I believe. He's probably the most underrated linebacker on this team and in the AFC maybe, if not the league. Great middle linebacker, can play 2 positions. Great pick. Another pick that flies under the radar that was a great pick by Ballard in this first year is bringing in Rigoberto Sanchez as punter, as an undrafted free agent. This guy made the team, became a starter, and Mo Alley Cox, who is a basketball player. They brought him in as an undrafted free agent. He made the team. He's now a starter and is playing very well. He also made the trade for Jacoby Brissett after another pick, and I'm sorry, I should have included this because they actually brought in Scott Tolzien as a backup to Andrew Luck. Andrew ended up being injured. Scott Tolzien was a free agent. He started for 2 games, I think, and was fucking horrific. So they made the trade for Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby came in, ended up starting, obviously made the team. So that's good to go there. They brought in Ross Travis off the waiver wire. He made the team, but they ended up cutting him. Mark Glowinski, waiver wire pickup free agent, who's now starting right guard on the line, one of the best offensive lines in the league, even though they're not playing like it right now, so that was a good pickup. They brought in Jonathan Hankins as a free agent. Marcus Hunt made the team, ended up becoming a starter. Al Woods made the team. Barkevius. Jabal Shear was a great free agent pickup who ended up being a starter. Christopher Milton, Kenny Moore, huge pickup. Waiver wire, free agent, now a starter. I think on the verge of making a Pro Bowl. Luke Rhodes is their current starting long snapper. Pierre Desir, they picked up off waivers as a free agent. He became a starter before they traded him. John Simon, decent pickup. Kamar Aiken, decent pickup that made the team. Started for a while. Let's move on to 2018. This is where the first year that Ballard had all of his personal scouts in place, and they knocked it out the park on this year without a doubt. Definitely, I think, maybe his best year, although who knows. We have to see how the rest play out, especially this year. But first pick of the first, or pick in the first round, sixth pick overall, they picked Quentin Nelson. His score is 16, the second highest score of any player that Ballard has picked. Quentin made the team, obviously, became an instant starter. He has made the Pro Bowl twice and All-Pro as well. Huge pickup. Then in the second round, he takes Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard made the team, started, has made the Pro Bowl, has been All-Pro twice, and, I'm sorry, Quentin Nelson was All-Pro twice. Darius Leonard, no, that's right, they both were All-Pro twice, I'm sorry. Darius Leonard was All-Pro twice, and Darius Leonard was the Defensive Rookie of the Year. This is a second-round pick that a whole bunch of people at the time said they were reaching. They took him too high. He took Braden Smith in the second round. Braden Smith became a starter. Kemoko Toure in the second round, who I think would be a starter right now, but he's injured, so I can't give him credit for being a starter yet. Tyquan Lewis made the team. Nyheim Hines in the fourth round made the team. Not quite a starter, but a third down back, rotational player, gets plenty of time. Darius Fountain in the fifth round made the team. Jordan Wilkins in the fifth round made the team and is a backup running back. Deion Kane made the team, but they ended up cutting him. And then Matthew Adams and Zaire Franklin in the seventh round. Both of these guys made the team and are contributing, huge contributors on special teams. They brought in Greg Odom, who's a backup free safety, as an undrafted free agent. Made the team. Playing Evan Boehm, free agent, made the team. Eric Ebron, great pickup. Free agent. They picked him up off the scrap heap from Detroit. He not only made the team and started, but he made the Pro Bowl. Zach Pascal off the waiver wire, great pickup. Danico Autry is a good free agent they brought in, as was Al-Quddin Muhammad, a waiver wire free agent that made the team and has been contributing. Now let's move on to 2019. Rock Ya-Sin in the second round, starter. Ben Banigou made the team, not starting yet. Paris Campbell made the team and is a starter, but he's hurt quite a bit. A lot of people, myself included now, are kind of side-eyeing about passing on DK Metcalf, but, a lot of people passed on him, and so it is what it is. But, that could have been a big miss there. Bobby Okereke is a great pick in the third round. This guy, I think, is on the verge of making a Pro Bowl soon, but he's a starter. Khari Willis, I think, is one of their best picks. He is a current starter in the fourth round. Marvell Tell made the team. E.J. Speed made the team. Jerry Green made the team. Jackson Barton, Javon Patterson, I think, got cut. They brought in Devin Funchess, and he made the team and started, but then got hurt. Brian Hoyer. He did what they asked him to do. It's just, as a backup. But when he got in there, man, he was trash. Justin Houston, great free agent pickup. Led the team in sacks the last year and a half. And starter, of course. And that brings us to 2020. Now, 2020, we're not quite halfway through the season, only 6 games in. But we can, and so to some degree, we can't, it's kind of messed up because we can't really judge all these players in their entirety this season because, some of them could make the Pro Bowl or become Rookie of the Year, who knows. But at this point, Michael Pittman Jr. Has made the team. Jonathan Taylor made the team and is starting. He looks good. Now, Julian Blackmon, the third-round pick. This could end up being one of Ballard's best picks. It's looking like it now. Guy had an ACL tear and was still recuperating when they picked him. A lot of people side-eyed, said, whoa, this is way too early. They felt he was a talent, a special talent that was worth taking, even injured in the third round. So far, Julian's already a starter, and I think if he keeps playing the way he's playing, this guy's got a shot at a Pro Bowl this year. Now, that's, maybe not, but he's looking good. They took Jacob Eason, who made the team in the fourth round, Danny Pinter, Robert Windsor, Isaiah Rodgers, Desmond Patton, all made the team, as did Jordan Glasgow. Isaiah Rodgers, by the way, ran back a 101-yard kickoff return against Cleveland a couple weeks ago. And then DeForest Buckner. They traded their first-round pick, 13th overall, for DeForest. Of course, DeForest is a starter. He's making an impact. Another guy whose grade could go up by the end of the year, because I think he has a great chance at making the Pro Bowl. I mean, he was a Pro Bowler last year, I believe. But I'm not going to give Ballard credit for that, because that didn't happen while he was on the Colts. They brought in Phillip Rivers, who's starting. Trey Burton is looking good, though he's not starting yet. Xavier Rhodes, a reclamation project. Some people thought he was washed up. He's starting and looking fantastic right now as one of the starting cornerbacks. Tavon Wilson made the team, as did T.J. Carey. Now, that is Ballard's 3.5 seasons so far. We've now gone player by player, transaction by transaction, draft picks, free agents, waiver wire acquisitions, and trades for both of these guys. So now, based on the scoring criteria that I came up with, let's look at their final scores over the seasons they've had so far and determine once and for all, is Dan Dakich right? Has big, sexy, sweaty Ryan Grigson done the better job? Or has, aw shucks, the rivalry's back on, Chris Ballard done the better job, and Dan Dakich is just fucking stupid? Let's pull up the final scores and let's see. If you take away emotions, feelings, and any bias, here's how they break down. We took their raw score, which is the total number of points that all of the players that they've chosen acquired, and we divided that by the number of seasons that each guy has been the GM. We had to just round it up to 3.5 seasons for Chris Ballard. That way we could make it fair. And when we looked at it, here's how the final scores broke down. Ryan Grigson's final score is 20.8. Chris Ballard, 43.14. So Ballard is 2 times better. Not just better, but 2 times better than Ryan Grigson in terms of performance of doing what GMs are supposed to do, which is to provide the players that give the team the best chance to win. So Dan Dakich, I don't know. Put that on your bald head and rub it. I don't know what the fuck you said. I mean, here's the truth. I mean, here are the numbers right in front of you. And I broke it down so that we could get some insight into why this probably is. If you look at the scores, now, keep in mind, Ballard has only had 3.5 seasons. So he's had 4 drafts. Grigson had 5. And yet, Ballard's raw score was literally 50% higher, basically, than Grigson's. Ballard has almost 50 more points. And if you look at it, you can kind of see why. Number one, now, Grigson had his highest player score was 18 points. Ballard's was 21 points with Darius Leonard. 18 for T.Y., 21 points for Darius Leonard. But look at where this changes. Grigson's lowest player score was -8 with Trent Richardson. And the lowest player score that Ballard had throughout his almost 4 seasons, his 4 drafts, is only -2. He has no player with a lower score than -2. And look at this. The number of players who had negative scores for Grigson, 13 players. Whereas only 3 players had negative scores through Ballard's almost 4 seasons. Then you look at players with grades above a 5, because a 5 is a player that's like, look, this is a Pro Bowl player, not only a starter, but a Pro Bowl or all-pro player. This is an impact player. Grigson in his 5 seasons had 5 players who graded a 5 or above. Ballard in his 4 seasons, or 4 drafts, 3.5 seasons played, he's had 4 players already. So he's still got another season and the rest of this one that could go up. But if you really look at it, it's fairly easy to see here kind of the difference. They both, in terms of impact players, they both hit on some. They both had some big impact players. Grigson had T.Y. Hilton. Ballard had Darius Leonard. And yet, Grigson had huge misses far more often than Ballard. Ballard's had some misses, but not any really huge ones, and not a lot of huge ones. Only 3, really. Grigson had 13 negative player scores, and keep this in mind. Again, we are giving Grigson credit for Andrew Luck, who he really didn't even make the decision on. If you pulled Andrew Luck out of his scores, they would be even lower. But again, that happened under his regime, so I'm giving him credit for it. So this is the truth. This is the truth. No bias, no smoke blowing up anybody's ass. Most importantly, no bullshit. And I mean, you really can't argue this. Dan, if you're listening, and I know you are, because you petty as fuck, just like a lot of other people. Look, man, the idea that you would say, well, Grigson went 11-5, his teams went 11-5 the first 3 years, and then 8-8 the last 2. And Ballard had a 4-17 year and a 7-9 year, and then a 11-5. But here's the thing. Grigson, look, if you took Andrew Luck off those teams, I assure you, Grigson's win totals would have been far, far less. A lot of what happened with Grigson's teams was Andrew Luck simply making up for a lot of below average talent. I mean, that's just true. And these numbers bear that out. Let's be honest. What if Andrew Luck had played last year for Chris Ballard? What if Andrew Luck had played the first year of Chris Ballard's tenure? What if Andrew Luck was playing this year? I think we can all agree that Ballard would probably have as good or a better win-loss record than Grigson ended up with if that was the case, but it wasn't. You know, Ballard had to basically endure 2 seasons with Jacoby Brissett as starter. And some of those games, fucking Brian Hoyer was playing. So, I mean, you know, it is what it is. So Dakich and anybody else smoking good enough weed to think that Ryan Grigson was a better GM than Chris Ballard, unfortunately, my friend, I'm going to have to say that this question, as ridiculous as it may have seemed, has been officially put to bed. The winner in this versus battle is Chris Ballard. And Dan, I fully expect you to acknowledge this on your radio show and hold this L like a man, as I'm sure you got plenty of practice doing during your illustrious coaching career. Ow! So look, as always, fellow Colts fans and anti-bullshit crusaders, I appreciate you being here. Thanks for taking your time to watch. Let me know in the comments below. You agree with how I broke this down with my assessment, the analysis, and the final grades? And if not, you're out of your fucking mind. But still, I want to hear it. Tell me why not. Let me know in the comments. Let me know if you think Dan Dakich is stupid in the comments. No, I'm just playing. I'm just fucking with you, Dan. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, I appreciate you being here. Make sure you like this video, share this video, subscribe to the page. I will see you in the next one. And for all the Colts who are listening, players, coaches, members of the organization, I end this the way I always do with my message to you. Let's go out and win another fucking Lombardi, baby. Peace.